Welcome to today's Small Business Spotlight, where we unpack the insights, skills, and what it takes to get to the next level. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Rundown with Ramon. My name is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. Glad to bring you yet another amazing small business success story. Felix Agosto is a customer of Rocket Lawyer. Rocketlawyer.com is the most amazing platform helping small businesses and individuals with all of their legal needs. Felix, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you and hope your family and you are doing good on this fine day today. How are things in your world, Felix?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to interview me and allow me to share my story. It's a blessing to always get these opportunities. So I'm looking forward to it.
It is indeed. I'm glad you're here. So Felix, let's jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about who you are, whatever you want to share with us personally, and then about your business. What is it? Who do you serve and what is your business? I know you do a few different things, so feel free to pick one and we'll hone in on that for sake of this discussion. But what's your business about? Who do you serve? And a bit more importantly about who you are, Felix.
Right, so my name is Felix Agosto. Currently living in right outside of Philadelphia in Springfield, Pennsylvania. Married. I have four kids. One's older from a previous marriage, and currently have three little ones.
Very nice.
It's amazing. We homeschool our kids, and then also run my business from my home. So it's a challenge for sure. Was in the military. Spent about 16 years in the military. I was medically retired in 2012. And then that was really my experience in the military was what kind of propelled me into becoming an entrepreneur. There's a lot of things, a lot of skills that we learn in the military that don't always translate on paper, but when it comes to utilizing those skills and knowledge in the business world, I do believe that some of the training that we get is second to none in there. And that was really the beginning of my journey. Was towards the end of my career, I started kind of honing in on how the our unit was running their business
Mm.
side of it and not so much the military side of it, and kind of picked up on do more with less. So we had a small unit. We were able to run at the time I was an instructor, and so I learned a lot about managing and running events and things like that, things of that nature. So when I retired in 2012, I started a nonprofit called MVP360. At the time, it stood for Motives, Values, Personality, 360 Total Person. And that did really well. Initially, started off just trying to fill a void, fill a need. At the time, travel teams and tournament teams were becoming very popular. A lot of kids were being priced out of sports. And
Mm.
so I decided to kind of do something about that. Initially, started off really small and doing an after school program. It wasn't until I kind of started really promoting it in Philadelphia that it took off. During my time working there, we were able to partner with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies. Did some things with the
Congratulations, by
NFL.
the way. I wanted to take
Um,
a pause and say thanks for one for being a veteran. Congratulations for the success and working with these amazing athletic brands, so sports
yeah,
brands. So kudos to you for that. Continue, but I just wanted to say, give a moment to say, well done. That's a good start.
yeah, and actually it gets even better. So like the highlight of this journey during the community programs was we were recognized by the NFL. The NFL during that time, I believe it was about 2015 to 17, they had a contest called Together We Make Football. And so we were one of the recipients of that. And so they came out, did a little mini documentary on our program, flew us
Nice.
out to the Super Bowl 50 in California. So that was an amazing event. Our organization as a whole kind of grew. At our height, we were serving about 3,000 kids all around Philly, and also at the time working with the military. Um, and so as COVID started to creep in, though, we had to make some changes.
You had to pivot,
We
innovate, change,
Yeah,
change with
we
the
had
market. That's a big thing for
ab
small businesses for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So my kids are getting a little bigger. Driving out and working out in the field and cutting grass and things like that just wasn't really cutting it. And it's just part of scaling a business. Where do you go from here? And so what was happening while I was working the community programs, I was also working running camps for the military.
Mm.
So when I was retired, I really missed it. I wanted to give back, and so I was going back and doing these camps for military. At it was the time it was called McGuire Air Force Base. Now it's called Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst. And so once or twice a year, we would go there and do some camps. So those camps became so popular that in 2017, there was a military base in Florida that took notice. They flew us down to Florida. We did a camp there. And again, another success. A lot of other locations started requesting us. Unfortunately, again, same thing, COVID happened. And so my entire ecosystem and my world kind of came to a halt. And it was during that time where I had to kind of decide what I was going to do and how I was going to move forward. And so trying to clarify and keep this, as clean as possible. What ended up happening when I came out of COVID, there was two passions that I have. One of
Mm.
them is entertainment and the other one is sports.
Hmm.
And so rather than focus on one, I decided to bring the both together. And then I formed an LLC called MVP360 Management. And so at this point, MVP stands for mission, vision, and purpose.
Love it.
360 still stands for everything. And so MVP 360 Management is the umbrella company. And from that, now we also do sports, which is MVP 360 Sports. And so the journey for that particular branch of my business is another amazing story. So the camp business and for the military,
Hmm.
we were still getting a lot of attention. People were still requesting us, and so in 2023, we were asked to submit a proposal to do a pilot program for the Air Force for summer camps.
Congratulations. Hmm.
Yeah, so we did six camps during that summer. We did one in Texas, two in Florida, and then we also did four in New Jersey. And those camps were so successful that in 2024, we ended up doing 84 camps. And so that was 84 camps across the United States. And we had about eight camps that were overseas, Okinawa, Japan, Yokota, Japan, England, Germany, Italy. Uh, it was an amazing experience. 54 coaches hired. We did 10 different sports, and giving back to the military is amazing.
Hmm.
But I want to add a little more to that business. Is it's not just a military business,
Sure.
although we do serve military kids on military installations. We're also able to kind of latch on to, say, for example, a YMCA camp
Sure.
or a local camp that's looking to add a sports component to it. Our coaches are the best in the country, and they're all over.
I can believe
So,
they're the best. You're the leader, so of course they're the best in the country. Let me ask you
uh,
something, Felix. What have you learned about scaling? You've done so many things who've been successful in jumping from 2 or 3 to 80 and more scaling. What's been your success on scaling? And what would you tell to the small business owners listening, those who are looking to make a jump? It's one thing to have one coffee shop and serving one, but having 50 coffee shops, or you're doing a coaching program and having 70 coaches. What are you doing right to scale?
there's a couple things that I had to accept as a business owner. When I was a small business and I was the one going out there, it was me, right? So I'm always in control of how the process goes. But then when you start to scale, you lose that, immediate control. And so
Mm.
you have to decide, what is acceptable when someone else is running a program underneath your brand. And you have to kind of find that happy medium. If I'm running something, I consider it to be 100% successful. But if somebody else is running it, you got to scale it back and
Mhm.
maybe say, you know what, if this person can get to 85%, I'm a happy person. And I had this conversation with some of the people that were with me. Although I'm the person that's been behind it, I've had some really loyal people who have been with
Absolutely.
me the whole time, and they were resistant a little bit. They were like, "Oh, this isn't the same how it used to be." And I was like, "It's not. We have grown, and
So
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 now we're
acknowledging as you scale that it's not the same. That's a good
correct."
acknowledgement. It's not the same. Go ahead. Hmm.
Yeah, and so I remember saying, hey, we got to get to 85%.
I
If we're
like that.
successful and we're like 85%, then we're good. And honestly, the feedback that we got from the locations, I feel like we were about 90%. Like we did really well. Every location that submitted their feedback was, praising the work. And I do think that once you start doing that, as long as you
Mm.
set the standards and the goals and you do follow up, like that's important
Let me
because if
repeat that:
you're
standards, goals, and follow up. I love it. Standards, goals, and follow. Go ahead. Hmm.
correct. Because if you have a coach in California, if you go into that out of sight, out of mind situation,
Mm.
you could get yourself in trouble. Over time, people start to develop their own habits, and so you have to connect. And it's not micromanaging.
Sure.
It's strictly just, hey, let's check in. I want to hear what's going on. It's your business. Don't ever forget that. Once you forget that, then no one's going to really take care of it the way you would take care of it. And so
Absolutely.
that's key and that's important when you're scaling is and hiring the right people. Although you
Essential.
know yeah. You're always going to, there's always going to be a little gamble
Sure.
because you're not going to know people for who they truly are. But having some kind of gut feeling or having
Mhm.
something that says to you, hey, I really want to work with this person, you got to be able to kind of find that person and not just become a robot. And not, I've done some uh, through over time, I may
Mhm.
apply for a job or I may look for something and I meet with someone and they have these like generic questions or you have to fill out a questionnaire
Sure.
I'm sorry, but when you're scaling, you got to talk to the person, whether
Yeah.
the Zoom
Yeah.
call, and you have to make it personal.
Get that personal
Uh,
connection to get a sense of who they are and who they're not. One of my buddies, Felix, says, let people tell you who they are. And when they tell you who they are, believe them. So I think that
yeah.
that personal stuff is very important. Let me ask you, you're hiring and working with hundreds of people across a number of different types of business, entertainment, the nonprofit, dealing with coaches, dealing with parents, dealing with kids. Let's move towards Rocket Lawyer. How important is legal representation, legal services for you? How are you using Rocket Lawyer? Paint a picture for me for the legal aspects, talking to that small business owner that's not sure if it's right for them, is not sure if they're ready for it. What would be your experience in it in the aspect of legal services and leveraging the power of Rocket Lawyer?
Yeah, so I will say having some kind of legal advice or some kind of a legal resource that you can go to is extremely important when running a business. And oftentimes, I know that people, start to think, well, I'm small, no one's going to sue me. That's just not the case, like, and you never know what's going to happen down the road. I personally feel like if you're in business, then you're in business to become something bigger and better. And so you're protecting your future, really, essentially. Even if you're a small business, you're protecting your future. And so for me, I would start with the fact that I actually was part of a competitor. And one of the things that I would say to people is, you know what, it's okay, but you are definitely by yourself. Like when you go
Mhm.
into this portal, you're doing everything on your own. They just provide you with the documents. And I didn't feel comfortable with that. And so I continued to look for something else. When I found Rocket Lawyer, one of the things that I would say, like the very thing that I stick with Rocket Lawyer for is their customer service. There's a portal that I go into. There's templates. I can do my own. I can change it. But the good thing about it is that before I send that document to anybody else, I can send it to a lawyer that works for Rocket Lawyer, and they'll review it and give me feedback. And then I can make adjustments. I can make changes based on their feedback. And so that gives me a peace of mind when I say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to execute it and go from here. And that's not something that I have found with anyone else.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feel like that's one of their key parts of being a great resource.
Yeah, and I think that peace of mind, Felix, is so important. I mean, there's the legal aspects. You want things to be right. And of course, Rocket Lawyer provides that whole network of lawyers that you can go to, humans, to get help with that. But I think also it's beyond the transaction, the peace of mind that you're feeling knowing that somebody else, a service like Rocket Lawyer, has looked into this and you feel safe because you're building a business. So how would you feel, Felix, if you didn't have that security? How would that make you feel knowing, man, I'm doing all this stuff, but I don't feel so protected? How would that make you feel as you're talking to other small business owners?
I guess it's trial and error, lessons learned, learn from my own mistakes. It's going into a situation, as we stated earlier, I also do entertainment. When I first started, it was really word of mouth. I would bring in a band or an artist
Mhm.
and I would say, hey, I'll pay you this amount, and they would say okay, and then you get there and they do the gig and then they give you a different amount, and then you're sitting there like, wait a minute, we talked about this amount. And then it's like you feel like that's where you become vulnerable because
Mm.
now if you don't have that in writing, then it's your word against their word. And unfortunately, you may end up on the short end of the stick on that one if people are saying things about you that are not necessarily true. But if you have something in writing, people are less likely to go out and say something that's not accurate. And so it's a lesson learned for me is saying, you know what, I have to have these things in writing because anytime you're dealing with money, anytime you're dealing with people's livelihood, and then, of course, anything dealing with safety and security, you want to make sure that everyone is fully aware of what they're getting into, and then protecting yourself as you move forward.
Yeah, that protection is so important. Rocket Lawyer, as you know, Felix provides an array of services, forming an entity, branding and contracts, and new contracts, enforcing current ones, like you just mentioned, intellectual property, employees, taxes, and so many other and so many other legal aspects. Anything you can think of, Felix, that are the top few or several that are important to you in your business and or personal side? What kind of things are you kind of leaning in on for Rocket Lawyer to help with?
There's a couple things. One is I really, technology is crazy, right? So like there's so many things out there that can help you. But as a business owner, it's important to kind of scale that down. When you're like, for example, when you're banking or credit cards, or you want to try to have it, as narrow as possible so that you can kind of focus on, and you don't lose sight of anything. One of the things that I use Rocket Lawyer for is for the coaches to sign contracts. And so I was debating between, the famous Adobe one, or doing some kind of PDF filler or something like that. But the idea that I can also do that right off of Rocket Lawyer sold me on it. So I also do that. So as soon as I get done, I put their email in, I put the little box in there, which is user friendly. So I can put my signature box, their signature box. It even asked me, do you want to sign first? Do you want them to sign first? So I have them sign first. It comes back to me. I mean, it's amazing. How all of these things that typically some people may go to this database or to that, I can just do everything in one spot, and that's key for me because I have coaches all over the country, and so it makes it a lot easier to work with.
Yeah. Last question I have for you, Felix. I have a few more questions, but about Rocket Lawyer, what would you say to small business owners that are saying this is not so important? It's not a necessity for me. What would you say to them? And or in that aspect, has there anything happened to you where you were like, man, I wish I would have had legal protection, or where you're like, whoa, I'm glad I did because this could have happened. Can you tell me about kind of the urgency of that or the importance of the legal services and especially using Rocket Lawyer?
I honestly, the big one has been, payouts. I
Mm,
mean, it comes to money, and even in this last cycle, having 54 coaches, you have 54 different personalities, 54 different brains. Some of them function, all the time. Some of them are forgetful.
yes.
And so I tell you, probably I would say about 6 times I had to, say, hey, here's the contract, you signed it. This is how much, you're being compensated for the work that you're doing. And let's talk about it because like you already signed it. And so that was very helpful. And what I would say, it's hard when someone is starting out, right? Because like I have this thing where I always say sight versus vision. And so like I feel like a lot of small business owners are really caught up in what they see. Like this is
Mm,
what they see, this is what they do, but they forget about their vision, and so like their vision is no longer, relevant to them because they're so busy paying bills or, tending to customers. And I would say to them, if you take a beat and stop for a second and focus on what it is that you were trying to do, what are you trying to accomplish, what is your long-term
mm.
vision, then you definitely don't want to sacrifice what you're doing now, by not protecting yourself legally. And legally, I think there's a misconception that it has to be something that's drastic and dramatic. It doesn't. It could be something simple. It could be somebody's feelings got hurt and they decide they want to sue you because you disrespected them. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful, but guess what? Now you're in it, and so you have to figure that out. And so it's better to just kind of have all your ducks in a row and be able to kind of make sure that if things do happen, you have a resource to go to, and that's what Rocket Lawyer does. So just protecting your future is what you really have to focus on.
I love it. I love it. Felix, one more time, can you give us your name, the name of your company, how people can reach you? Just give us that. People can go to it. What's one more time? One of the companies. I know you have several, but you can just pick one. Or how can people reach you who want to check out your services and or donate or whatever you wish to talk about? And again, thank you for being a Rocket Lawyer customer. It's been great to be with you today. But one more time, tell us who you are and how we can reach you.
Yeah, if you go to MVP360mgmt.com, that's basically the umbrella
Great.
company. You'll see the sports and you see the entertainment on there. Depending on what you would like to work with me on, you can click on whichever one is there. And then, of course, coming in 2025, we do have a nonprofit that's going to be called Operation Rise Up, which is going to be to serve additional military kids over the school year period because our camps typically just run in the summer. but there's a need for us to be back there with those kids in the during the school year as well. So so far we're doing really well. We have a board of directors already in place, and so that'll be coming in 2025. But as of now, you want some entertainment, you want us to put together a summer concert series or something for you, just go to MVP360mgmt.com and click on entertainment, and you'll see True Entertainment, which is our company, and then MVP360 Sports, which is our sports company.
I love it. Felix Agosto, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you being here on the Rundown with Ramon, brought to you by Rocket Lawyer for all your legal needs for small business owners and personal as well. Thanks, Felix.